In the last 2.5 years, I've been able to grow a business that's done over $25 million in collected revenue. There's literally people who offer to pay me at least $50,000 just to learn from me. But today, I'm gonna give you all of my business knowledge for free. You're gonna learn exactly how to choose a business, understand its risks, and what you need to do to be successful and be able to at least cross $10,000 a month. But I do got some bad news, because if you can't watch this video for more than 5 minutes, then you're probably not going to make it anywhere. Over the course of the next hour, I'm gonna give you the blueprint, the method, the strategies that you need to vet and locate workable business opportunities that really give you the return on investment that you're looking for. This way, you could be more successful than all the other people around you. So we have a lot to cover in this video. Let's not waste any more time and jump right in. How can I be successful in business and investing? So to kick things off, I think it would be really good to put into context how I've been able to find success in business and investing and why I'm qualified maybe to tell you guys what I'm going to share with you tonight. So a little bit about me. 4 years ago, I was a DoorDash driver. I was making like $2,000 to $3,000 a month, and I didn't know really anything about entrepreneurship. In fact, it was actually a year ago yesterday that I started my company or formed my LLC. And I didn't really know anything about business or investing. All I knew was that I just wanted to change my life, and I wasn't happy doing what I was doing at that moment. I knew that there was no future doing it. I knew that I had to make more money somehow. I needed to find a career that I could excel in and make more money in. I had goals of being able to spend more time with family, but spend more time with my friends and be able to do things that I want to do whenever I want to do. And I didn't have that because I was working 12 hours a day at Amazon. I don't say that to tell like a sob story, but I say that to really put things in perspective that I started in most people's shoes, not having a lot of business knowledge, not having a lot of understanding on how to approach these opportunities. I didn't have a lot of resources either. I didn't have much money. I had $10,000. I blew it on a bunch of courses, and I had to learn my first lesson the hard way after I drained my bank account was that I really need to work one-on-one with a mentor if I want to be successful in learning business skills and learning how to be successful on my own, which we're going to talk about a lot in this video. And so that was like a full month. A full month I spent, just watching videos, going through courses. I spent $10,000 trying to learn how to do all this stuff. And I would look at all these testimonials because I was part of all these Facebook groups. Now everyone uses Skool, spelled with a K, Skool. And I was part of all these Facebook groups. And I was like looking at all these success stories. And I said, why are these people so successful and why am I not? I'm like going through the course. I'm spending 12, 16 hours a day going through the course. Even while I'm driving DoorDash, I'm going through the courses. I'm putting all my attention, all my time into trying to learn how this works, and I'm still not getting the results that I thought I could get. And I don't think I was necessarily sold like a wrong expectation. I just don't think I was sold the thing I actually needed, which I had to learn the hard way later on, was that the way to learn how to do anything successfully is the best way to learn how to do it is to learn directly one-on-one with someone who's already doing the thing that you want to be doing and who's ideally the best at it, who's going to spend the most time and attention with you. The only con to that is that it costs more money than paying for $1,000, $2,000 course. So months went by, and I eventually landed on learning the skill of sales. And I realized how important communication was early on because it's valuable to any business skill that you're ever going to learn, guys. Whether it's talking to potential investors, whether it's training employees, whether it's communicating to people what it is that you want, whether it's helping people get what they want, when it comes to coming up with a promotion, when it comes up to closing a deal and closing a sale, no matter whatever it is that you do, regardless of whether you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or an investor, you need to have the skill of communication. And no one ever told me that. No, I always was grossed out by sales. I never had an interest in it. I never wanted to do it. I had no confidence in my ability to sell.
I would always turn down sales opportunities. But if someone just strung along the words in one sentence and said, Andrew, if you want to be successful in business, you have to learn sales. If someone had told me how important communication was, I would have totally put more attention and focus on it earlier on in my life. But I had no idea because I would never use the word communication in my vocabulary. I didn't understand how important that actually was. So once that finally clicked in my head, I realized how valuable it was to learn communication so I could be successful in sales. I could be successful in marketing. I could be successful in whatever it is that I do. If I'm communicating a promotion, how do I trigger certain pain points, benefits, pleasures, end products, whatever it is that someone wants? How do I formulate my sentences where it attracts attention? Same thing with a sales call. Like, how do I communicate whatever it is I'm selling in a way where it demonstrates I understand the prospect's needs and wants and how I'm able to solve their problem with what it is that I have? So, long story short, there, because I could go on and on about how communication is so important, I finally met someone named Dylan who was actually someone who was willing to help me. I knew he was going to be willing to help me. I knew he was going to work one on one with me. I knew this guy was legit. I knew that this guy knew more than I did. And I was very confident that he'd be a great coach because I saw testimonials of other people who had learned sales skills directly from him. And at the time, Dylan was making around $20,000 to $30,000 a month in commissions at an offer that he was selling for. And so I had this opportunity, and this opportunity, by the way, it was like a once in a lifetime opportunity. It only existed for a week, and I was fortunate to snag on to that week. And that's why I always tell people that if you see an opportunity and you know that there's a huge potential of taking advantage of it, you should do it, because chances are the opportunity may not last forever. And what I really mean there is not just the business model, but the actual person that you can learn from may not be teaching that thing forever. So I saw the opportunity to go work one on one with him. And the problem is that costs a lot of money. So that was when I got introduced to 0% interest funding. And that was when I first leveraged credit cards, money I didn't have in my bank account, to invest in this mentorship that I was very confident in. Fortunately, that mentorship worked because of what I'm going to talk about tonight, is how to find those things successfully and how to, do well with them. Fast forward, I've learned a lot of lessons along the way. I'm going to share a lot of what those lessons are here tonight. And over the last 2.5 years, really over the last year and a half, this has really happened. And I've been working at this for 4 years now. Over the past year and a half, I've done over $25 million in collected cash amongst all my businesses and investments. And there was a lot of lessons I learned along the way that I really want to share with you guys tonight, because a lot of you who are wondering, how do I find the right opportunity for me? How do I know if it's going to work? Well, my question back to you is, what are you going to do to make it work? And what really goes into finding a successful opportunity? So all the experiences, by the way, that I share, are just meant to, share my experiences of things I've learned along the way. I don't necessarily intend for all of it to be financial advice, but I intend for it to be valuable learning lessons that you could learn from. So that way, maybe you don't make the same mistakes that I make, and I can help you accelerate your growth much faster than maybe what you could find on your own. And I'm going to be honest, guys, I was very fortunate. I've been parts of groups of hundreds of thousands of people. I'm one of so many. And probably the biggest difference between me and everyone else that I saw in these Facebook groups, in these online communities, in these in-person communities, is just simply work ethic and access to the right information. I got so fortunate that my first mentors that I really learned from had the right information. And then I got into another mentorship where I had a short window of time to work one-on-one with the person who could really help me get results. And at that point too, I had access to the right information. I was in the right place at the right time, and I took the opportunity, and I took full responsibility for that opportunity and how it went, and really just gave it my all. That, I think, is one of the number one differences that I see. And we're going to talk about that here tonight. So now that you know a little bit of my story, and I wanted to share that just so you have perspective of how I've landed upon, all the success that I now have in the past technically like really like 95% of the success has come in the past year and a half, because that's really where the bulk of the income has come. But there's been a lot of learning experiences over the first, 2.5 years to get to that point. So how can you be successful in business and investing? Well, being successful in business and investing is very similar to what I like to say, driving a car. I spell it with a K because this is an acronym for how you could essentially find a ways to be successful in business and investing. So being successful is like driving a car. You need to have the right knowledge, you need to have the right approach, and you need to have the right resources. This is really all you're going to need when it comes to vetting opportunities, determining whether or not you're going to be successful with them, is really when you break down these three things. So we're going to go in order because the way that you discover, approach, and get involved with these things, it does end up going in this order. So the first one that we're going to talk here about tonight is knowledge. So, and this all has to do, right, with being successful with business and investing. So how are you going to be successful if you don't have knowledge of the industry that you're looking to get involved with? And there are hundreds of industries. And I get this question a lot because we have a referral partner network list. There's a lot of mentors and other successful people that we know who offer things. But I don't want people to just think closed-minded on just solely those things. When there was a post from Alex Hermosi on August 12th, and I remember this because I said it in another mastermind. But if you go to Alex Hermosi's Instagram and you look at this post from August 12th, 2024, you scroll down and it says a quick list of niches that can make you a millionaire. It looks like this. A quick list of niches that can make you a millionaire. And there are so many things in here, whether it's like e-commerce, podcasting, business coaching, food trucks. I mean, heck, there could be a food truck automation. There could be pet product automation. Like, you know what I mean? Like people could just throw up random stuff. But anyway, point I'm trying to make is that there are so many different industries that people can be successful in. And the first step of really finding success in any business or investment that you're getting yourself involved with is having the right knowledge and understanding really the knowledge that goes into how the business model works. What are the risks involved with the chosen model? And what are some of the best practices and things that you should look for? And so I'm going to write those things down, right? How the model works. You also have risks. You also have like opinion leaders and mentors, right? These are all things that you know going into the industry, right? Let's take like real estate, for example, right? Let's take real estate, for example. Let's take like Section 8 real estate. I'm sure maybe if you guys have Instagram, you guys see a lot about Section 8 real estate everywhere. Like it's this crazy opportunity, right? Where your monthly cash flow is guaranteed by the government. The government's guaranteeing to pay your rent every single month, right? There's a lot that I can really say about how the model works, but you also have to consider what some of these risks are going to be, right? Like what if I bring in a bad tenant? Or, what if the tenant destroys my property? What if I buy the wrong property? Like what kind of pricing should I be looking for? But also like who is actually teaching this and who is actually good at doing this and who's like shown results themselves and like who's actually demonstrated the fact that like they can do this. Additionally, you could consider here like what kind of return on investment versus investment are you going to end up making into this to be successful? So the first step of all of this when you're driving the car to be successful is possessing the correct knowledge about how this industry works, what are the risks involved, who are the opinion leaders, the mentors, the return on investment, all that stuff. So let me walk you through, especially when, another one that I could also write here is, can it be made passive? But this is kind of go into the next one approach. But I'm going to even give you my own experience doing this, right? So I picked, for example, running a consulting business. It's not necessarily advertised that much online. There are people that say, start a high ticket program, do this, do that, start a course, blah, blah, blah. But I definitely chose consulting, but it wasn't really the first thing I thought of. And the risks in that regard were like, well, what if I don't, deliver? Or, what if it doesn't work out for me? The risks could be that you have to spend a lot of money up front to eventually make a return, whether it be in advertising. The risks are that like you need to have sales and you have to have sales skills, you have to have communication skills to sell your product, right? You kind of see how I'm listing out all of these things. And if you guys have different ideas in your mind, you can use ChatGPT to determine the knowledge of this stuff. Or you could go directly to experienced opinion leaders, which is probably going to be your best bet. Find people who've actually done this already and ask them these questions like, hey, like what kind of real estate do you do? Hey, how does your consulting business work? Hey, like what like risks are there really like when it comes to this stuff? Like, don't you have to consider bad tenants? Like, don't you have to consider bad clients? Like, okay, what kind of investment do I need to make and how much return can I make from this? And can it be made passive too, right? But the first step basically is just accumulating all the knowledge of a particular industry. Ideally, it's something that you're passionate about and something that you're going to be very excited to wake up and do every day. Hence, that's why I chose why I wanted to be successful with a consulting business, because I really enjoy like helping people with my product. It's something that's worked for me. It's something I've personally done. There's a lot of fakers out there who try to offer 0% funding, but they've never actually done it themselves. They've just done it for other people, but they've never actually went through the blood, sweat, and tears of being successful with it. And that's the thing. It's like you have to accumulate the knowledge of the industry and know how you're going to be, like what goes involved into being successful with it. So once you have started developing knowledge of how this business, how this investment works, it could be trading, it could be, all this stuff, right? You got to understand how the industry works. What are some things that happen in the industry? What are some common problems that these people face? You want to be asking these questions to yourself. And if you give yourself time, like maybe you could ask ChatGPT, and I like also using ChatGPT because it'll save you tons of time. You could start asking, what should I know about industry? Right? Another common one that I get a lot of, like that happens a lot. A lot of people are advertising, start an e-commerce store, but the risk that's never often highlighted is the fact that like, yes, this business model does work. There's millions of people that legitimately do it. But the thing that they don't tell you is that it may take more than one product to find a winning product. You may fail on your first product. Don't get crushed when you fail on your first product. It may take you 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 products before you see a winning product that you could skyrocket with to the moon and start making profit with, right? What should I know about this industry? What should you ask like an e-commerce person? Like you start asking these questions, you could ask them to ChatGPT, or you could find yourself getting an interview directly with maybe a testimonial or a success story. Like, what has helped you be successful in this business? What should I know before jumping in, and start developing the knowledge? The next thing that is this is probably the most important out of all of them, is your approach. So I want to move into approach, because this is probably going to be the most important one. And when I talk about approach, what do I really mean by that? Well, whenever you're approaching a business or an investment, you need the right approach. And by approach, I mean your work ethic. I mean your time involvement. You need to understand important concepts about your attitude, your mindset. You need to understand responsibility and what taking full responsibility actually means. You need to understand, let's see, what else did I write here? Earned income versus passive income. This one's a good one. Responsibility versus blame. How to be a good client. or student, no matter what it is that you do, whether it's passive or we're going to talk about that in this one. And yeah, qualities of a successful person. So I know I was just writing those down. So when it comes to first, you have to, develop the necessary knowledge of an industry, including what you should know going into it, what kind of risks are involved, and all those different kinds of things. Who are the mentors? Who are the opinion leaders that you can learn from? You need to acquire as much knowledge. So that way you have the right expectations going in, right? Now, those expectations really need to be aligned with your approach. Because if your expectations are not aligned with your willingness and your approach, you're going to have a lot of problems. And this is really it's really these two steps I see most people struggle with. Not necessarily the resources step, it's really the knowledge and the approach steps. They don't know enough about the business model, or they don't have the right approach. That's really where people mess up. And that's where I've messed up. I told you my story earlier. I messed up when I didn't have the right knowledge of knowing to get a mentor. Fortunately, throughout, I've had the right approach. I just didn't have the right knowledge. So, understanding now, what goes into these business models, what does your approach need to be successful in this business model? What does your work ethic look like? Like, are you going to be willing to work 12 hours a day, or are you only willing to work 4 hours a day? Nothing is wrong with either or. Obviously, if you're working 12 hours a day, you're going to have a lot more potential than someone who's working 4 hours a day. But to each their own, and everyone's going to want something different. That kind of goes along the lines with time involvement. Mental toughness is really going to have something to do with it too. What is your attitude? Because I could tell you this, if you're always looking to blame things on other people and not take full responsibility for what happens to you, you're going to have a lot of problems. And it maybe not even be for you, to be honest, because you need to take responsibility of everything that happens to you. And it's how you learn from your mistakes. There's plenty of times where things have gone wrong for me, and I could have just sat there and blamed, oh, this course sucked. Oh, I could have done yeah, especially the first time. Oh, this course sucked. That was really the big times. Oh, you didn't actually help me enough. There's a lot of times where I could have said that, but I need to actually take responsibility and say to myself, well, what could have I done better? What did I learn from this? Because the things that you learn from the experience that you pay for are priceless. Those lessons are the most valuable ones, and arguably are worth more than maybe the information contained in the program itself, because you're learning about yourself, you're learning how to, be successful in business, and you're learning the correct approach, the correct qualities of an entrepreneur. Also understanding the approach of earned income versus passive income is pretty key too. Because once you understand that passive income is basically someone else's earned income, it helps you make better decisions. Because if you want something that's very passive, it's going to be heavily dependent on you being able to trust someone else to do a great job at earning income. And the way that you could find that out is to determine what is their knowledge, what is their success rate in the industry that it is that they're involved in. But more importantly, how are you going to be successful as a client or a student of this program? Before I even jump into that, when it comes to the earned income, passive income thing, there's a lot of businesses that you could start yourself and turn into passive income models. I want to mention that too. But how can you be a successful client and a successful student to whatever it is that you're pursuing and whatever it is that you're getting yourself involved with? Well, be willing to ask questions. You have to learn what the approach was of the top student. You ever see coaches or business opportunities or investments, or, they're always flaunting the top case study of the top student. And you probably often ask yourself the question, well, how can I be that top student? How can I be that top success story? What is it that that person did differently that, than what I should do? And you really want to learn what the approach was of the top successful student, because more likely that person was willing to fail many times before he found success. And that really needs to be your outlook on things too. Because if you're going in there expecting that everything's going to be perfect, that's often not times the case, and it's going to require a little bit more work, and you may make a mistake. And you have to be okay with making the mistake. This approach, when the approach is wrong, it oftentimes crushes people because by the time they do reach that failure, which it's going to happen, it's happened to me, and it just happens. Like, I've been in the same exact shoes as everyone here. And when the failure happens, you have to be willing to shake it off, and you need to be willing to be comfortable with those mistakes happening. They're going to feel uncomfortable sometimes, and it's going to be very tough, but you need to be willing to push through it. You need to have strong willingness. You need to reflect as well back on what your goals are and really write these down. Because if your goals are so important to you, then you're going to be willing to do anything to make those goals happen. Take like that big goal, whatever it is in your mind, really envision what that is and what are you willing to do to make that goal happen. And if everything is aligned up until this point, you have the right industry where you could see a lot of potential, and you have this correct approach where you're going to go in there and take full responsibility of what happens. You're going to learn the approach of the most successful client, the most successful student, because if you could learn exactly what that person did and you could duplicate exactly what that person does. We do the same thing when we're hiring people to our team. We onboard them and we show them what the top producer is doing. And ideally, the person who's coming on also wants to be a top producer. So we say, hey, if you want to be the top producer, we're willing to work one-on-one with you to teach you everything that this person is doing. And you just need to replicate what they're doing. Because if you're willing to approach things this way, if you're going to go in there possessing the knowledge that this successful client or this successful student has, why wouldn't it work for you? Because if you're going to approach it the same way, and if you're going to put the same amount of time and attention to it as this other person, and you're accumulating the correct knowledge from the right mentor, why wouldn't it work for you? It's really a lack of these things that is the reason why many of the people I've been surrounded with have not succeeded in business. Sometimes they have the right knowledge, but they don't have the right approach. A lot of times they don't have the right approach. A lot of times they don't work their ass off to make it happen for them. Like, their goals were not strong enough, or like they let life get in the way. And sure, life's going to get in the way, but you need to create the time to put in the work and really really focus on like your approach. Because if you lose touch with your approach, it doesn't matter the kind of knowledge that you have. And if you have the right approach, but you don't have the right knowledge, then it doesn't work. And you really need both to be successful, or otherwise you're just blowing resources. Like how I told you with my story. I blew a ton of resources because, yes, did I work super hard? Yes. Did I have a lot of time involvement? Yes. Was I willing to fail and make mistakes? And did I take responsibility of my mistakes? Yes. Was I mentally tough? Yes. Was I, a great client? Not exactly, maybe, because I didn't actually learn what the top people were doing. And maybe I wasn't willing also to do those things. So maybe my approach was a little bit off, although most of the things were right. But if I look back at it, I actually didn't really understand enough about how the model works. I actually wasn't looking for a mentor. I wasn't working one-on-one with someone who could coach me directly on the mistakes I was making and really show me exactly what I needed to be doing. And because I didn't have all these things aligned, I was blowing resources, which by resources, and this one's a very quick one, is like, what is your investment and what kind of ROI am I going to get? Logically, does it make sense? And that's really it from the notes that I have. But the resources is especially important when you have the right knowledge and approach. If you don't have the right knowledge and approach, you're not going to have control over your business or your investment. So you really have to have that correct knowledge and that correct approach. And when you evaluate all these businesses and investments, it really boils down to this. The way that most people learn how to do anything, maybe you're working at a job and there's someone there who is just an absolute stud. Think about maybe where you work currently or in other companies where there's just like that number one guy, and think about what that guy does to be successful. What kind of actions is he doing? Or maybe if you're young and you've never had a job before, think about like the straight A student in high school. Right? Or think about the best employee in the business that you work, right? Well, they have a lot of these things. They have the right work ethic. They have the right time involvement. They have the right mental toughness to push through barriers. They don't blame other people when things go wrong. They're willing to take responsibility of what happens to them. They walk away, they get up from it, they shake it off, and they work hard to get to the next level. And like they're asking questions. They're asking questions to mentors. They're working one-on-one with the people who have the knowledge or the success that they want. And it really boils down to that. You need to know how this business model works. You need to know how the risks work. And this applies to anything. Think for a second of the thing that you're most interested in and ask yourself, what do I need to know about this business? What risks do I need to know? What extra costs are usually occur? How many products does it take to be successful? What price range should I be looking for properties? Ask ChatGPT questions. Ask yourself these questions. Like, ask more questions based on the response that it gives you. There's a lot that you can learn from AI nowadays. A lot of people say it's not advanced. I promise you this, it is freaking advanced. I've made GPTs that literally speak and give me responses the way that I would do it. Actually, I'm going to read you one. This was a really good one. I'm going to give you my definition of a superstar that ChatGPT gave me, actually. So this one time I asked ChatGPT my own custom one that forms responses based on my knowledge, experience, and recorded trainings. Like, I've uploaded all of these trainings into a ChatGPT, and I asked it, how would I define a superstar? I said, Andrew would likely define a superstar, and this is my ChatGPT, by the way. Andrew would likely define a superstar as someone who consistently demonstrates a combination of hard work, commitment, and the willingness to push through challenges, regardless of natural talent. A superstar is not necessarily the most talented person in the room, but the one who outworks everyone else, stays committed even when things get tough, and continuously strives to improve their skills and knowledge. This is someone who doesn't give up even when faced with adversity, and who is driven by a deep belief in their ability to achieve success through persistent effort. This definition reflects Andrew's own experiences and the principles he's shared over about the value of hard work over talent. That is so true on so many levels. That is exactly how I define a superstar. I don't care how talented someone is. Really, what matters the most in a superstar is their work ethic, how fast they can duplicate information, and are they seeking mentors to learn the successful actions of what it takes to be successful. Because if you're someone who thinks to yourself, how do I know if this is going to work for me? Well, my question to you would be, what are you going to do to make it work for you? Are you willing to work hard? If I gave you a mentor who can help you on a silver platter, which is basically a lot of like what I've found over the last 4 years, I found some really good people who are good at doing what they do. Like, and if I were to give you the best person and show you like the top testimonial, are you willing to take the same approach that that person took to be successful? Are you willing to work as hard as them? Are you willing to put in the same time commitment? Are you willing to be responsible of your mistakes? All of those things. And if you say yes, right, well, your actions are going to be reflected in the amount of knowledge that you learn of that business model. Like, how much do you know about the business model? How much do you know about the kinds of investments that you have to make to get the return on investment that you're looking for? Do you understand the risks? Do you understand what problems you may end up experiencing along the way? Do you understand, like, all of those things? And do you have a mentor that you could work one-on-one with who can take you through the whole journey and make sure that you are successful and treats your success as if it's his own? That at that point, if you have all those things, I've seen for almost every single person I've been in those groups with, over 100,000 people, every single person, it's a few number of people, just to keep it real with you guys, it's a few number of people who really do those things that end up being the most successful. The people who do those things are the ones that you see on the ads. The people who do those things are the ones that you see being flashed as testimonials because they had the right approach. They learned everything they needed to know about how the model works, the risks involved. They found a mentor that they could work one-on-one with and learn from their successes. But most importantly, they had the right approach. They were not afraid to fail and all of these other things. And from there, at that point, you're just really looking for the resources, which, 0% interest funding is a great resource, for example, especially with many different business models, like whether it be e-commerce or whether it be like a regular brick and mortar business, whether it be, like trading or like whatever it may be. There's many ways to make it work. And you just really need to put all this together. But most importantly, if you're one of those people who's thinking like, how do I know if business is going to work for me? How do I know if I'm going to be successful at it? Well, this video should serve as your guide to basically explain like, hey, if you want to be successful, learn exactly from the best. What do the best have? And number one, like not every response may include the fact that they had a one-on-one mentor or they had a coach. That's certainly a huge cheat code, is having someone that you could work one-on-one with. But most importantly, you maybe don't know if it's going to work because like you got to make sure that, hey, maybe you're someone who's going to put in the work and who's going to have the right approach, but you want to make sure that you're learning from the right person. Well, how do you go and learn from the right person? Well, you got to go find people who are doing the things that you want to be doing and ensure that they're going to put in the time and attention to actually help you be successful at whatever it is that you want to do. And then on the other side, right? It's like, well, I know all about this, but how do I know if this is going to work? You might not really be more of those people, but you really have to have those two things aligned. You have to have knowledge and approach aligned, and then making decisions really shouldn't be that hard after. If anything, you're going to be fighting fear at that point. Maybe you know there's a good decision that you have to make, but you're afraid to spend the cash. Well, scared money don't make money. If you have to have confidence in yourself. You need to trust that you're going to have the right approach, as I mentioned through this outline, and you need to surround yourself with people who have the knowledge, who've gone through the mistakes, who've gone through the ups and downs of business, and who have this success and experience that you're looking to develop yourself. This is exactly what I did to learn how to do my own funding business. That's not an opportunity that's offered on our referral partner network list, for example. I've seen it work with any business model. I talked to someone who buys and flips tiny homes, like just created the opportunity himself. But how did he learn to do it? The knowledge and the approach were aligned, right? You see people like Eric Spofford. Guy built a addiction clinic that sold for over $115 million. Well, how did it work? Well, number one, he had the right approach and he had the understanding, the right knowledge of his business. And, he wasn't afraid to spend the resources and trust himself in his approach and, really follow through with the right knowledge. So overall, I could repeat myself kind of over and over with this stuff. But at the end of the day, you need to have the right mentors in your corner. You need to know what you have to learn what you should know. You don't know what you don't know. And you need to learn what is most important, which is like how the model works. What problems will I expect to run into? What kind of risks are involved in the opportunities? And, can it be made passive is a good point too. Like almost anything really can be. But that's going to take the right approach. Do you have the right approach? Are you willing to put time into it? Are you willing to learn about it? Are you willing to figure out how to have control of it? Can you control your emotions? Are you going to be tough, or are you going to blame everyone when something bad goes wrong? Are you going to take responsibility for what happens to you? I'm telling you, like, this stuff separates so many people I've witnessed, and I've been a client of dozens of programs since starting out in this. And I'm telling you, the number one thing that separated me from anyone else who tried to make it work was really the approach and having access to the mentor, taking opportunities when they present themselves and not being afraid to make that leap of faith.